All right. Well, we're I think we're live. I'm not seeing it on my secondary computer, but according to the little thing up there, it shows that we're actually on. Oh my gosh, David, you're acting really weird. What's going
on? Oh, sorry. Got my
I don't think I've ever been that close to you in real life.
Got my Andy Serkis scruff and my Weird Al shirt.
So. On program.
That's right.
Well, so yeah, we are. I'm glad that you folks were able to join me tonight. I wasn't sure if it would be me just like yelling into the wind about Weird, the Al Yankovic story, which is what we're here to talk about. Eric Appel's original Roku original film, which debuted last weekend. Yes, the Roku original film. As one of our other Earth's Mightiest Critics asked in the email thread where I was setting this up, he said, "I'm there," and he's not here. And what the hell is a Roku?
Was that Mark?
No, that was Will.
Yeah, I remember that now. Yeah,
Roku. I think that's a vacuum cleaner, right?
It kind of sounds like
it's
one of those robots that go around and.
No, here's the next big thing. You know how they have video screens in your refrigerator so you never have to not be watching television?
No,
they're going to have a Roku Roomba where you can just like follow it around the house watching the internet. But that's a prediction, and I want my 10%.
It's just for all stay-at-home moms and dads who like just have to run after their kids and just stare at the screen. Yeah,
pretty much. Well, you don't have to run at your kids if they're staring at the screen. They stay put. That's the great thing about modern parenting. But no, so yeah, we're going to be talking about this movie. Sorry, we're a little bit late getting started, folks, but I perhaps should have sent this out as homework, but it's something that was sort of late breaking in my own education regarding Weird. I was talking to Mark Krawcheck last night, who would have been here tonight, but he had a conflict. So he actually told me that this movie, and I had no idea, it was based on a Funny or Die skit, a fake trailer from 2010, I believe, called Weird, the Al Yankovic Story, in which Aaron Paul played young Al Yankovic, and it was sort of a parody of the rock biography where he's like raging drunk and he's having all sorts of weird sex with Madonna, who in that version was played by Olivia Wilde. I had no idea, so I watched that trailer after I watched Weird, and then as we were sort of in the green room, I asked Mike and David, who I'll do proper intros for soon, I promise, if they'd seen it, and the answer was no. So we kind of watched it together separately, if that makes any sense. So now we're all caught up, and I am happy to present Mike Crowley of You'll Probably Agree and 25 Years Later, and also David Fowley of Keeping It Real, my compatriots in reviewing Weird. So before we launch into it, what is all of our histories of with Weird Al Yankovic? Are we fans of Weird Al Yankovic? David, you're wearing the shirt or approximation of it, so you go first.
I mean, I grew up on him when he, hit his when he started out in the 80s, and I thought that the stuff was clever and everything. I never bought any of his albums or anything like that, but I would always play his songs. When his songs came on the radio, I was like, "Oh, this is funny." Okay, yeah. And of course, it was a perfect time for him to, come on the scene because of MTV and videos, and that's what was really funny about Weird Al. Not just the way he would, change lyrics to familiar songs, but his videos were hilarious. And I just, for a kid who was born in the 70s, grew up in the 80s, his juvenile humor was just hilarious, with the sound effects and everything, and just the different instruments he would use. And and then there was a time where I was like, wait, he's still going? And he did that, episode 1 parody and, all the, my, this here Anakin guy. And the guy just keeps on going. So I have a lot of respect for him. I actually did scare him one time. Yeah. He was set to play at the House of Blues. This is probably maybe about, 20 years ago or so. And my wife and I I think we had just gotten married. My wife and I were walking through the parking lot to go to our car, and Weird Al was about to walk, like, they have the hotel right next door. He was about to walk out of the revolving door, okay, to the across the way, just by himself, and you can't help but recognize him. Through the revolving door, he was about to walk out to get to the House of Blues. And I just stopped and I go, "Hey, it's Weird Al."
Oh,
and you could see he saw me go. He went like this, like, and he just kept on going through, like, stayed in the revolving door and walked and stayed in the hotel and kept walking. Like, I want nothing to do with that guy.
Wow.
So I don't know if he was just, like, literally mortified that somebody, like, called him out, or if he was just doing a bit. So could be both. Who knows?
I did that once at Comic-Con to Strangers in Paradise creator Terry Moore, a couple hours before I actually interviewed him, so that went over well.
Oh, great.
Yeah, but Mike, tell us about your Weird Al fandom, or the state of with which you are a fan of Weird Al or not.
I wasn't really ever a fan, but I really respected what he did. I think he was sort of my introduction to parody, maybe. Oh, aside from like maybe Mel Brooks and like going real far back, like Danny Kaye, like those are, or he didn't really do parody as much, but that was more like Mel Brooks. And yeah, Weird Al kind of like, he always had like catchy versions to popular songs, most notably in this film, Eat It instead of Beat It. But yeah, it's weird. I kind of had the same feeling like David did after a number of years. I'm going, oh, wow, this guy's still doing this. And then when I saw that there was a parody movie of his coming out, I'm going, do I really want to see this? Like, do I really care? But I don't know, I saw it, and, it was a Funny or Die movie. So you kind of know exactly, what it's going to be. And yeah, I mean, Weird Al never made like a huge mark on my life, but I always kind of respected what he did.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same, I think, all around here. I know some people who are like huge Weird Al fanatics, like have seen him in concert a number of times, and one of whom, Mark, again, he couldn't make it, and considering my feelings on the movie we're about to discuss, is probably for the best. I actually talked to him a bit about it last night on his live stream, the pre-show. We kind of got into it a bit about differing opinions on the movie. So yeah, I love puns, and I wouldn't be surprised if Weird Al's music was what put the idea of puns and satire, planted those seeds early on into my brain. Yeah, David, you mentioned his episode 1 parody, The Saga Begins, which was the takeoff on Don McLean's American Pie, which I maintain. I mean, I love that song as much as I love American Pie, because it's a clever wrap up. It's a brilliant summary of the film. I know it was a bit of controversy back in '99 because he basically spoiled the entire thing a month and a half before the movie came out because the video was out. But it really speaks to his talent as a musician and a lyricist, that he's not just eat it and beat it, that's the end of the song. No, he creates these songs from the ground up, and he's great at building stories and things in his music, and the music videos are pretty much uniformly terrific. So when I heard that they were making this movie, I was intrigued because I wanted to know about the life of Weird Al Yankovic. When I found that they had cast Daniel Radcliffe in it, I was like, okay. And then I saw the first images of it, and like the first teaser poster is him. Actually, it's the backdrop of our screen here, the close-up of him playing the accordion. You've got like those ripped Daniel Radcliffe, like Hugh Jackman as Wolverine hands, like playing the accordion. I'm like, that doesn't really fit. What is that? What are they going for here? And then I gradually found out that is a Funny or Die picture. Talk about like, are they still around? That's what I thought when I saw the Funny or Die logo.
I was like, wait a minute.
Right. I found it's a fake parody biopic about Weird Al, and I'm like, that's a bigger, for me, bridge to cross, because I think we already have a pretty perfect parody biopic in Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story from 2004, right? Which also features Jack Black in a cameo as a famous musician. And so I'm like, okay, I'll give it a shot. I had heard an early review of it from a few weeks ago. This person was like raving about it, just over the moon, saying it's everything a Weird Al fan could want. And I watched it, and I know people who've seen it and really enjoy it. But what I want from a Weird Al movie is to learn something, possibly as a biopic, and also to watch or to experience writing and characters and performances that are at least as good as UHF, the Weird Al movie from 1989.
I've never seen that.
Yeah, that's
I've never seen UHF.
Okay, the stream didn't freeze. I'm just okay. I almost want to stop this now and come back after we've watched UHF.
So UHF came out in the late 80s, and by
89.
that time, okay, yeah. So I was like, towards the end of high school, and I was like, whatever, Weird Al, So yeah, I just kind of skipped over it and never caught up with it. So
David is an Indiana Jones fan. I can't
I
believe
know.
you've never seen.
I've seen that part. I've seen that
that's
part.
the opening of the film, and then the Rambo thing, and I mean,
I've seen all those clips. I've just never seen the movie straight through.
It's worth it. I actually saw that at the Music Box a few years ago for like an anniversary screening, and Weird Al was there, and he came out and introduced the movie, and that was a lot of fun.
That would have been cool.
Yeah, he pretended as if he couldn't like really walk upright, so he was climbing up onto the stage at the Music Box on the steps as if like his legs were like he didn't have use of his legs. It was like the freak from Freaks.
Right.
But long story short,
you love it. Oh
no, this movie is so profoundly unfunny and unoriginal. Like on every level, I feel like every joke and every gag was not only telegraphed, but frankly stolen from better comedies. And I couldn't believe what I was watching.
So for you, it's die, not funny.
Here's how I put it to my wife. And for sensitive viewers, you might want to pause the live stream for the next 5 to 10 seconds.
To the moon, Alice.
I watched my wife was with me for the first 40 minutes or so, and then she had to go call one of her friends. We were watching this both with the same expression on our face, just like stone cold, with the frequent like looking at each other with this scrunched up like what the and then at one point I said, honey, I want to kill myself, and then I want to come back as a ghost and kill everyone associated with this film. And she said, what about Weird Al? And I said, especially Weird Al Yankovic.
Wow.
So that's where I'm coming at from this film. So Mike, why don't you summarize Weird, the Al Yankovic story?
Well, as we know, this is a 100% accurate, true tale of Weird Al Yankovic's rise to stardom. Now, of course, this is actually a huge parody. And, the story starts with Weird Al's parents not accepting what he does. Instead of being this rambunctious teenager who goes around and drinks with his friends, he wants to play an accordion, but his father, who works at the factory, disapproves of it and slams his accordion to the ground. And eventually Weird Al, through these like roommates who all look like GQ models, and I think that was kind of the joke, they encourage him to pursue his career in creating parody songs. And through that, he meets Madonna, and he becomes kind of a rock star and has like his own sort of Oliver Stone, Jim Morrison meltdown.
Love it.
Yeah. And eventually he goes to war with a very well-known drug kingpin.
Pablo Escobar.
Yeah. Okay. We could just say he's Pablo Escobar. So he goes to war with Pablo Escobar. And I think at the end of the day, he receives an award for his life, for everything he struggled with. And then something happens after that, but I won't give it away.
He gets shot dead on stage.
Yeah, he gets shot on stage. Well,
I don't care. The spoiler. Let me put up the spoiler tag.
I guess, yeah, you might as well, because but I have to say it's weird. I saw it.
It's weird.
Yeah, it is weird because this was exactly the Dewey Cox story. I feel like Dewey Cox told this comedy and with far more creativity and humor to it than Weird the Al Yankovic story did, where I felt like this could have been a far more clever film, but especially now that you just showed me this trailer, they just beat for beat just did what that trailer that they released 9 years ago did. and they just stretched it out.
To an
But
hour
this
and
one
48
has
minutes.
Julianne Nicholson.
Oh, but this one is, yes, of course.
Playing another
I knew you'd love that.
another terrible mom in a fake
Yeah.
biopic.
I knew
The
you'd love
second of
that.
2022 after Blonde. No, I mentioned the thing about Yankovic dying on stage at the award show because it was, again, it was a knockoff of the climax or the final scene of the movie Network, where you've got this guy up on stage, giving this rousing speech, and a revolutionary stands up with a machine gun from the audience and mows him down. And that's
spoiler alert for Network.
The movie is a classic, and it's like 50 years old, so I don't know what to do if you haven't seen
I
it.
always wonder when the spoiler threshold ends. Someone goes like, "Oh well, someone hasn't seen the movie before." I'm like, okay, but if we're talking about The Sixth Sense,
Who shot
he's
JR?
not gonna.
Lee Harvey Oswald. Wait, no.
JFK. Wait, the president
Man
gets
from
shot in that
Atlantis.
movie. Titanic. The ship sinks. Yeah.
Whoa. No, it's a strange. David, you and I talked about Clerks 3 a while ago.
Yeah.
And I mentioned that at the very beginning of that movie, something happened that really put a bad taste in my mouth. And that was, again, spoilers. This is a spoiler for Clerks 3 if you haven't seen it. That Rosario Dawson's character, Becky, we find out died, in between films. And so kind of giving the movie an excuse to just going back and being about Dante and Randall and, kind of mentioning her. But at the end of Clerks 2, Dante was forced to grow up because he was married and he was going to have a kid and all this other stuff. So it opens the door to all these possibilities. In Weird, they paint the Yankovics, the parents, as these really strict, authoritarian kind of monsters who don't support their son. And there's no love in that family really at all. Even at the very end, when he's accepting the award, he gives his dad the finger on television. Now, for anybody who does know anything like a bit about Weird Al Yankovic's family life, he did, his parents were, not necessarily possibly religious, but they're kind of strict and everything. But he loved his parents, and they both died tragically in a carbon monoxide poisoning incident back in, I think, 2004.
Jeez.
And like he was really beaten up over it, and like all these people were sending out messages of love to his parents because I guess they'd appeared and stuff with him and all this other stuff. I'm watching this movie, and Al Yankovic co-wrote this movie with Eric Appel. I was just really surprised and kind of put off that, like, it'd be bad enough if someone else wrote this as a mockumentary about like people who had actually died, but to see him treat his fictitious parents this way, I just like, what is going on here? Because I don't know what I was expecting, but I wasn't expecting that. It just seemed kind of cruel.
Well, I mean, the key word is fictitious. I mean, I didn't know any of that stuff that you just talked about, and that's probably why I had no problem with it. And I thought it was funny. Having seen that trailer now before we started this live stream, I really wish Gary Cole would have played his dad. That would have been awesome. There's something that kept me kind of immersed or involved in this whole movie, and yes, I did, chuckle quite a bit and was quite impressed by the whole thing. Was I just don't see, apart from say maybe Dewey Cox, I just don't see. I guess first of all, I'm so sick of biopics, especially musical ones. So I'm so glad to see something that's just like, screw it, we're just going to go all over the place and not be accurate and just be totally, silly goofy. But what I appreciate about this and what I think grounds this movie is Daniel Radcliffe's performance, because he has a certain earnestness about him as Weird Al. And I don't really care if it's accurate, because right away I knew that, like, okay, this is, it took me a little bit to calibrate myself to it, but I was like, okay, this is just going to, like, stereotypes and being very Dewey Cox, and so let's see what comes of it. And I just, yes, in that trailer from 10 years ago or whatever, Aaron Paul plays Weird Al and did a fine job in under 3 minutes. But there's something I think it's just there's something about Daniel Radcliffe. It for us as viewers, we mostly still know him as Harry Potter and everything. And yes, he's branched out and he's done some really good work. But just to see, it's almost like at first it's almost like cosplay a little bit. And it's like, how is this going to go? Where's this going to? But there is just this kind of earnestness where he feels just kind of, even the younger actor who plays him before, plays young Weird Al like in high school before Daniel Radcliffe plays him. I don't remember his name, but I think he does a good job too. There's just something about this awkwardness that both of them get straight, and just like he's a character who feels like he has no place until he does, and those characters are always interesting to me, especially putting them in weird situations, and just them being the oddball. I mean, the odd thing about the funny thing about this depiction of Weird Al and this kind of I don't know, you could call it a hero's journey, I guess, is that he's really not that weird. He may be kind of odd to everybody. It's like, well, why polka of all things, and why an accordion? And I'm like, who cares? It's just funny that this is, what happens. I mean, could have been a xylophone for all it matters. Like, it's just, it is one of those things that at the time growing up, you don't see somebody strapping on a musical instrument like a vest and playing it. Like, you just don't see that much. There's something about the visual of Radcliffe as Weird Al, and strapping on the accordion and getting the feel for it and everything. And I mean, I thought that it definitely, there's a lot of, it's like this whole movie is kind of overacting, and I didn't mind it at all. That whole pool scene was just really silly and hilarious, to me. Like, Jack Black showing up as Wolfman Jack was hilarious, because when we first see him, he's doing the Wolfman Jack voice, but towards the end, his lines are just straight up Jack Black, and I'm like, okay, so we're just throwing that out the window, and all these other people kind of appear. Divine is at the pool, and it's like, what? It's like,
and that's the thing is, I mean, I'm glad you enjoyed it and you were kind of on its wavelength, but I've seen all of this stuff before. It's telling that one of the first things we see in this movie is an image of Alfred E. Newman on as a poster from Mad Magazine. There's a lot in this film that, especially the pool party is a great example. That was almost like a Mad Magazine, Mort Drucker, splash spread, where you see, hey, it's Weird Al at a party with all these kind of 60s celebrities. But the scene goes on for like 5 minutes, which is 4 minutes and 45 seconds longer than the joke needed to be. David Dashmalkian showing up as the bassist from Queen or whatever. That was, I got, like kind of not a chuckle, but like, oh, that's kind of clever. But, it just goes on. And yeah, Jack Black losing his, Wolfman Jack voice. It's all stuff that I've seen before. The treatment of Al as, or Daniel Radcliffe's portrayal as Al Yankovic, I don't know what it is, because it changes from scene to scene. He is, the narration is straight up Will Arnett doing the Lego Batman, the this is my story. And then you've got Al Yankovic, growing up, the kind of snarky, rebellious teenage version of him is incongruous with the, wow, I don't know anything about the world, I'm just kind of wandering around a dazed version of himself in his 20s, where he's like wandering into his apartment with his, 3 other roommates. And then later we see him as this Jim Morrison alcoholic. The character changes as the scenes change, because they're not really scenes in a movie. They're setups for skits that, again, are just stolen.
Yeah, I mean, they're like Funny or Die vignettes that are, stitched into a movie. Again, it's not a through narrative, really. I mean, it doesn't.
But it's an hour and 48 minutes long.
No. It could have been at least like hour 30.
It kept my attention, man. It was funny. I mean, I thought Evan Rachel Wood was great as Madonna.
She was the highlight of the movie for me.
I was
honestly.
just like, whoa. And I don't know if you guys saw that video that I sent to you about when she was on. I think when she was on Jimmy Fallon. Look that up because she does like Alanis. She does Madonna.
No,
she
I
does,
didn't see that yet.
I forget who else she does, but she is a great impersonator. And as far as like, you know, impersonating musicians, you know, but yeah, that was really funny. I mean, and the way that they like how far they took it, you know, she wants to take over Pablo Escobar's dynasty, and you know, she's the one who basically winds up, you know, killing Al in the end. And you know, I'm just like, yes, let's do this, let's go for it. And I mean, it reminded me kind of like sort of like the, you know, the Zucker Abrams type movies from the, you know, 80s, 90s, you know, probably early 90s, like the Hot Shots type stuff, you know, just doing whatever, and in, you know, random celebrity cameos here and there, and just kind of, you know, going nuts.
Well, and that's, you know, that's where it kind of lost me, that whole Pablo Escobar bit, because you say they went for it. I say they went for, again, Woody Allen and Bananas, Bill Murray and Where the Buffalo Roam, the Altman movie OC and Stiggs. Like, they all end with the big climax. We're like, oh my God, what can we do? We're going to join a bunch of revolutionaries and shoot stuff up. You know, it's just, yeah, I mean, I'm watching this thinking, I don't believe that Weird Al Yankovic would sit down and sit through more than 15 minutes of this movie if it were like done by anybody else, because it's all, as much as he is a guy who's known for parodying other people's songs, I feel like he's smart and original enough to get at the heart of what would make a funny parody of that and put it out instead of just doing the obvious thing. And this movie is just full of the obvious thing.
Yeah, I mean, he's parodying, he's doing a, you know, he's paradising. Is that a word?
A gangsta's paradise.
Yeah. Gangsta's paradise. Yeah, there you go.
Amish paradise.
Yeah. I mean, he's basically doing it to himself, right? You know, and the biopic genre. So, yeah. I mean, I thought it was funny.
It's funny. It's a movie that works better as a short sketch than an entire feature film. I felt like, you know, there's like certain moments, like when he rekindles with his father, that's nice and all, but none of it really makes me say, oh wow, this is pretty funny. I'm going, oh, I've seen this joke. This is, you know, this is very familiar territory. But I came in with very low expectations.
Mm-hmm.
I think one, because it was like on a streaming service where I was like, that was extremely confusing. Like, I didn't know what Roku is on. Like, did I need to own a Roku? I couldn't find it on my Apple TV, and eventually,
how did you end up watching it? Did you just go to RokuChannel.com?
Did you get a link or what?
I just went on the internet. I just like went on my Steam Deck, which is like a portable PC, and I just opened it up on what's it called? Google Chrome, and just watched it through there, you know, and just put it on my television. But yeah, I mean, it's weird. Otherwise, it's like it's hard to find a copy of this movie. It's almost like they're trying to hide it in a way, although they're not.
Well, that's the thing is, like, I think I wrote this in the email thread because Will had asked what the hell's a Roku.
Yeah.
I just Googled it and it came up like just I think it was the RokuChannel.com.
Yeah,
and you can just watch it. Like,
well, I got the email with the link, and you just click it.
I know, because you got like those crazy critic privileges, David, that I hope to get someday.
Oh
No.
yeah, okay. But I had a weird night though, because you know it initially didn't work, and I just had to go, Siri, get weird, and it became really. Just became a really weird night, you know.
All of a sudden, your lights start strobing.
I know, yeah. I'm like, wow.
Something calls out of the TV.
Siri, hold on there, honey.
But no, so yeah, for anybody out there, you should be able to just, if you want to watch this movie, you can just go to the RokuChannel.com and watch it.
Yeah, I mean, the way we're talking about it, you should really watch it.
Yeah, it felt...
That's the thing is, I'm fine being the one guy who's going to stand up and say, I think this movie is like terrible. Yeah, I'm the last guy anyone asks for a reason. But yeah, this movie is going to have its fans, its devotees. And one of the things I was talking to Mark about is, how the hell did this end up on the Roku channel? I understand like deals are deals, but I feel like this is the movie that you can put out, and there are enough Weird Al fans around the country who pack his concerts when he goes like to perform places, because he always sells out like multiple shows. You could put this out in a weekend and have a far better showing than, say, Bros.
I read an interview with Weird Al that he was saying that he went to every streaming service and none of them bought into it except Roku. You know,
But a streaming service is, well, first of all, maybe they had seen the movie, but the other thing is a streaming service is not a studio, right? Like, did he go to Fox or whoever? Like,
yeah, I think the whole idea was to go to a streaming service and get it released that way.
Especially with the production quality, because it's like intentionally bad in a lot of ways, especially the whole Pablo Escobar third act. Like, you know, they look like they're standing in a back lot, you know, with just some palm trees put up in the background. And we're in Colombia now. You know, but for that intention and purpose, Weird felt like it's meant to be sort of on Roku in a way. It's meant to be on the most obscure streaming platform you can imagine. Like, honestly, like, this is something I would imagine seeing on Tubi, you know, which actually Tubi does produce some pretty amazing stuff here and there. Like, there's some good documentaries you can find. It's just, you know, they're few and far between on there because it's an oversaturated sort of, because like, isn't Tubi sort of the place where you just drop whatever movie you have on there and they're just like, yeah, sure, we'll put it on there.
Yeah, I watch a bunch of like free movies on Tubi. It's great, you know, if you don't mind like ads. And stuff. Yeah.
And there was ads with this too. Like, there was a few here and there.
You know, I was wondering about that because it seemed like some of the transitions in this movie were like pause, like almost like designed to have like a commercial there.
I was talking to Mark about that last night. He said that he had noticed that too, because like on Tubi, one of the fun things is there'll be an ad that pops up just in the middle of a movie, like in the middle of the scene.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes it'll be funny, like there'll be a really dramatic scene, like, how could you? And it's like, buy auto insurance. You know?
How could you buy auto insurance?
But this, as you're right, David, it seems like they knew when to go in and put the commercial breaks. It doesn't exactly fade to black, but it happens like right, you know, between scenes.
I mean, Mike was saying that he went in with low expectations. I mean, mine was I was just totally curious because, you know, I've seen Radcliffe do some, you know, very interesting things, you know, what's the flicky, the Swiss Army Man. I mean, that was incredible physical comedy and physical work, you know, and there's the
one where he plays like the Nazi or something like that.
And the one where he's like stranded in the jungle, and so you know, I was really game for it, and I thought it was kind of like an inspired casting, you know, and
it worked in terms of the character because Weird Al is sort of this awkward, geeky guy who doesn't quite fit in, but he has this lovable personality that we all enjoy. And I think who better than Daniel Radcliffe, who's trying to get away from the Harry Potter thing, but also he knows he's like, hey, I'm nerdy, but I'm also real likable.
And I'm also ripped.
Yeah, I know. I saw that. I was like,
what the heck?
Is he? Was that where his real muscles, or did they like?
No, that's him. What cracks me up is like Weird Al's like, yeah, I'm gonna cast this guy who's like totally ripped and used to play Harry Potter as me.
Yeah,
I'm like, I kind of love that.
I know.
And you know what this movie reminded?
Some stuff. Yeah.
You know what this movie reminded me of? It reminded me that I would love to see more Weird Al in comedies. You know, because his bit with Will Forte in this as the brothers who hire, I guess they're the studio executives. It's just like it conjured up some nostalgia for the videos that I used to watch as a kid, Weird Al videos. But you know, I just kind of love the fact that he's, you know, game for something like that, and it was kind of fun to, you know, see him, you know, in that role. And
the movie's sort of just playing like with all the conventions of the biopic. It's just that a lot of other movies play with the conventions of the biopic, and that's where it gets a little muddled with.
Are you saying biopic or biopic?
I don't know which way it is. Tomato.
Bionic.
Yeah, the Bionic Man. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's it's fun to see, I guess, Weird Al show up in a cameo, you know, as the record executive who turns down Weird Al. But again, I saw that same scene in the Bohemian Rhapsody where it's the record exec like, no one's gonna listen to an 8.5-minute song. I'm like,
exactly, yeah.
You know, and you've got the scene in the bar where he goes up there and he's, you know, everyone's like throwing bottles and, you know,
Rocky Road.
Yeah,
a much more clever parody of something like Team America, where you don't use real actors, you use puppets, and it just has that cynical skewer that only Trey Parker and Matt Stone can put in a script, where Al felt like every parody I've ever seen in a way.
Well, like, there's a bit where I could just see into the writer's room and Al Yankovic and Eric Appel like patting each other on the back and give them like reach around to pat in the back. There's a bit because Rainn Wilson plays Dr. Demento, the radio personality who gave Al Yankovic a start in this movie and also in real life. And at one point towards the end, he's like, "Don't think of me as your mentor. Think of me as your
D-mentor."
I looked at my wife and I said, D-mentor.
I will say,
because he's a mentor. He's Dr. Demento, and he's talking to Harry
Isn't that
Potter.
clever?
No,
he's demented, but he's like a doctor. I did kind of like the little part though where he's actually in the studio exec's office. They basically tell him, "What you write is crap. You're just doing parody," and he goes, "Well, I was on Dr. Demento's show," and they're like, "Oh, that changes everything. Oh my god!" I don't know why. It was like so stupid that I actually couldn't. Like, there's one thing I do like about this humor is I kind of like how kind-spirited it is. It doesn't have that sort of cynicism that you see attached in a lot of comedies, and I think that's like one of the biggest appeal to Weird Al is that he seems to have like a really good soul, and it comes across on screen, and he's not talking down or condescending his audience or picking on targets.
Well,
maybe
I agree.
Fat people.
Well, yeah, there's that. There's also, again, that flip off to his dad at the end,
that was funny. Well, that was more towards the character,
Well, right. I understand that, but I'm just saying, like, I'm surprised and kind of, disappointed. I should have had you guys watch UHF beforehand, because everything that you're talking about this movie being, I'm trying to assure you it's not, but UHF is.
I really want to see it now. That when he reconnects with his family and they start to get along, and the whole I don't even want to call it a fat suit. It's more like a neck wrap, a neck wrap that Julianne Nicholson's wearing. It was so bad and distracting. I was like, how did they shoot this movie? I mean, how could they not like just crack up and laugh like the whole time?
She looked like Boss Nash.
She looked ridiculous, and this is Julianne Nicholson. I mean, I love that she's just kind of going for broke and playing these like terrible mother roles lately, and I love it. I'm totally there for it. I love everything she does, and
she'll be playing Joan Crawford in a remake of Mommy Dearest.
I like how she's like, you probably noticed that I've gained some weight. I'm fat. I'm really, really fat. And he's like getting caught up in the gangsta paradise, the Amish thing and all that. Yeah. And she's like, I'm fat. And if you notice, the dinner that they're eating is ham on whole wheat when that's happening, and that's in the song I'm Fat. But,
yeah.
I do have to say, in terms of, I made fun of the production value for being low, but I have to say, like, it kept it high enough where it's still something that you can watch and tolerate. It's not something like Rob Zombie's Monsters.
I did like, yeah.
Hey.
I'm sure you like that, Ian. So
no, legit Rob Zombie's Monsters. Sorry, is one of my favorite films of the year.
Good Lord,
really? Oh my God, I gotta see this episode.
Wow, I guess I'll have to finish watching it because I couldn't get through it.
I just saw the trailer and I'm like, this looks like a party.
Do
video.
not watch the trailer. I
didn't watch the trailer.
I was totally prepared, because I've been on the hate Rob Zombie train for at least the last half decade. And I watched the trailer. The trailer, I'm convinced, was unfinished because it does not reflect what the quality, I think, of the production quality, at least of the final film. And David, you should finish watching it. I don't know how far you made it, but it's 20 minutes. Solid.
I don't know. No.
20 minutes.
Yeah.
I could see that trailer being incomplete. I don't know if it was intentional, because at one point when the guy's narrating the beginning of the documentary, you can hear his his voice popping when he's
Yes.
like enunciating his piece and
In
tease.
Monsters or Weird?
In the Monsters, yeah.
Monsters.
Well,
In
that's
the
then-
trailer.
Dietrich. Isn't that Dietrich Bader?
Well,
In Weird, yeah, we're talking about the Monsters, though.
Okay, I forgot that there was even narration in that.
yeah, and then there was like a
No,
scene
in
where
the
father's
trailer for the
talking-
Monsters, there
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Mhm.
In the trailer.
Yeah, and there's
Yeah.
like another scene in the trailer where the father's talking from across the table, and there's like not a mic on him, so like the audio is coming from across the room. Like, how did this get okay? So there's nothing like that in the final film.
No,
I think it would have been. This movie would have been. It would have been. I guess it would have been more interesting to me if they did kind of interject like real life things from Weird Al. Like supposedly, I heard that he tried to get permission to parodize. I'm saying this song again. Paradise. What am I doing? Parody to try to parody songs by Prince, and Prince continuously denied him. So I mean that would have been interesting to see. Like I'm sure there were other artists that he approached that denied him, so it would have been interesting to see to have that kind of interjected in. But I also like the spin of that, like he came up with "Eat It" and it was an original song, and then Michael Jackson, stole it from him.
that was the one
like that.
spark where I thought the movie was going to turn around and become about something else, because I think that would have been a really clever, like that to me. That's how you do a Weird Al movie. If you're going to have a fictitious thing, have it be
Like
this
everybody's ripping me off.
Right, this alternate reality thing where he's struggling. You could really do some funny stuff with that, but it's like a one-note thing.
And I love the description of that somebody actually, once Michael Jackson's "Beat It" became a hit, so I forget who it was, but they were describing what "Beat It" is about, and they're like, I don't know, I think it's about a fight or something, or I don't know, gang warfare. I'm not sure. And when you think about it, you're like, yeah, "Beat It." I mean,
I have a feeling I know what it was about when I was like when I became a teenager. I was like,
just beat it. Show them what's funky. Show them.
Yeah,
but it all goes back to my personal expectations and desires as a viewer, which I know doesn't always line up with reality. But my thinking is, I want to see a Weird Al biopic, because there are elements in here. I think Looper has a good article. I'll link it down in the description later, of the things that were true in Weird. Like he did record, I think it was My Bologna in a bathroom. The stuff about his parents. Like there are a couple other details that are true. They're kind of like glossed over. I wanted to know, like it couldn't have been easy for Weird Al. He was like a really smart kid who, he did get, I guess, his first accordion from a traveling salesman. But like, what does it take to come up and want to be a musician and end up doing parodies of other songs? Like, what is that life like? He had or has a wife and a kid, and all these relationships with people in show business. That would have been interesting to see, because that's a sort of musical biopic that we haven't seen before. You can even make it a comedy, but to go in the farce direction, I feel like you have to make a farce, and it's a big challenge because there's so many farcical movies out there, and comedy biopics in particular. You really have to go out there and really do some soul searching and some comedy searching to find something that hasn't been done before. So as much as I don't want to see another musical biopic, I would like to see this story in particular. But if you're going to go the parody route, you really got to do the hard work. And I just don't feel, I feel like this is lazy.
Well, I mean, judging from the trailer from 10 years ago, this is just stretching out what was there, fluffing it up, adding some padding. And, again, not having seen the trailer after I watched Weird, and I didn't mind that, I guess you got to start somewhere. But I thought Rainn Wilson was good. I mean, I think originally in the trailer, Patton Oswalt was Dr. Demento, and he wound up showing up here as a heckler at is it a biker bar? Right?
Yeah, it was the biker bar.
Yeah. Which reminded me of Pee Wee Herman. Of course, there's an actor in here playing Pee Wee Herman. And Emo Phillips plays Salvador. No, is it Salvador Dali? Yeah, I think Emo Phillips is playing. So, I had a fun time with it.
Yeah, I mean, people's mileage will vary for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm glad there are people out there who are vibing to this. I just don't, I'm not one of them.
Yeah, it just felt like, although it was familiar and formulaic, it kind of served its purpose. If you're gonna make a movie about Weird Al, I don't know if I'd want to see like an entirely serious picture about his life.
Well, I
But
think
I
you
would
could make an
also,
entirely serious picture about his life, but you can make it a dramedy because I'm sure his life was, I'll say it again, weird,
yeah.
but I don't want to see a one-dimensional changes motives from scene to scene cartoon character.
Yeah, that makes sense, and that totally, like, I get that, because like, yeah, you get a little bit about his character. He really wants to be an artist and be focused on that, but everybody wants him to do parody work. But the movie's so much of a parody, there's not much to latch on to with the character to have you care about what's going to happen to him or where it's going to go. It's more like, oh, what's the next gag? What's the next thing? And if the movie was as funny as something like Naked Gun, I wouldn't mind that, but it's it's not. It's just very much like humor that's been sprinkled throughout every other spoof of a biopic, tomato, whatever.
If it had come out 10 years ago, I think,
Yeah.
maybe I would have not seen as much. Well, I mean, no, Dewey Cox was longer than that, but
Yeah.
I just
Dewey Cox more than 10 years ago?
2004, yeah.
Wow.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure it was 04.
I thought the
around there.
90s were 10 years ago, but what do I know?
I know time is.
Yeah.
I hate time.
It's cruel.
Yeah.
Yeah. We do have a comment from someone who was unable to watch the show in time for
Or the movie.
The movie for time for night show, but David's shirt for the win.
Okay.
Agreed. Yeah.
I'll take it.
Yeah. So, any closing thoughts on Weird, the Al Yankovic story?
I mean, there's no room for a sequel because he's dead, so it's a bummer.
Well, they could bring him back. They could make him like a cyborg or something.
Oh, that would be cool.
He's
Yeah,
not
like-
dead because of that totally unexpected tag where the hand comes up out of the grave like Carrie.
Yeah, that's true. Now it's going to be Zombie
Oh.
Al. Weird
Yeah.
Zombie Al.
Maybe it'll be good as Zombie Doctor Strange.
Oh,
Mm.
yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't be hard to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if in terms of comedies, if you want something that's silly and innocent and safe, yeah, go ahead, watch the sketch. But it didn't do much for me. It was okay. It was enjoyable. I liked it overall, but I wasn't. I wasn't really like chuckling too hard. There were a couple moments that had me chuckling hard, like the aforementioned part with the studio execs where they're immediately won over when he mentioned he was on Rainn Wilson's show. And then the part with the walking salesman where the dad basically beats him almost to death. And then, the mom's talking to him. He's like, I think I have a collapsed lung. She says, I'm having a moment with my son. Like those
Yeah,
moments.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like in Austin Powers 25 years ago where
Or
Will
when he-
Ferrell is like, I'm okay. I'm okay.
The Shark Tank.
When he winds up getting a job at the factory, he's like, what do they make here?
It immediately just kills everybody in there, but his dad doesn't care. It's like they reunited, so it's all right.
That was the one sight gag I thought was kind of nice was the when he throws a switch just in the background. It's kind of hard to see what's going on, but you see a guy getting sucked into a grinder on a conveyor belt.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh no, I'm sorry. It's like, how do you know you did that? You're just pressing a button in the other side of the factory.
Yeah.
So funny.
Yeah. I thought of a way that this could have worked. I don't remember. I'm Still Here is not the name of the movie. That was the Joaquin Phoenix fake doco.
Yeah.
But there was the one that came out a couple years
Yeah.
before that where it was a bunch of people playing Bob Dylan.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I'm not here.
I know.
Kate
I'm
Blanchett.
not there. or
I'm
something
not
like
here.
that.
I'm not there.
Yeah.
Imagine a Weird Al Yankovic doc or a dramedy about his life where you get all these celebrities to play him from scene to scene.
Well, see,
That
the
would be
problem with
way
that
better,
is the
honestly.
reason that movie was made that way is because Dylan has been so many different types of characters throughout the decades, and throughout he's had so many different types of phases.
Mhm.
Whereas Weird Al's always been Weird Al. So
I
it's
know,
like,
but until this movie where he's a different person from scene to scene.
well,
Yeah,
see,
yeah.
to your mind, yes.
Well, because he's like in the beginning, he's like the shy, nervous guy, and then all of a sudden he's taking on drug kingpins and going on a
That's
killing
because it's an
spree.
extreme like parody. It's
Yeah.
going to
Well,
extreme
yeah, it's
places.
kind of-
Like all of a sudden he's doing a Jim Morrison thing. He's walking around with a bottle. I don't think Weird Al even drinks. I don't think he ever has.
No.
Yeah, so.
But I mean, they've been Jim Morrison extreme parodies of drunkenness have been a pop cultural meme since
Yeah.
Oliver Stone did that in The Doors
Yeah.
32 years ago.
Yeah. Wow.
Which
Yeah.
it was funniest in The Doors, although it wasn't meant to be funny. It's like, we're going to respect Jim Morrison's legacy. Like, go on the stage and act like a jackass.
I think they kind of did respect his legacy by portraying it accurately.
It was weird. Like, if you watch behind, I have like this old DVD with the behind the scenes stuff, and I don't remember the girl who was like his girlfriend or
Meg
like
Ryan?
no, not Meg Ryan, the
Oh.
other one who was like an alchemist and like a devil worshiper
yeah.
or whatever.
Oh, that was
Bruiser Bulk.
Yeah, I couldn't remember her name if you threw it at me, but she basically said that like a lot
Kathleen
of that
Quinlan.
yeah,
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think that was her.
directly in the DVD, she's like, "This is inaccurate. Jim never did this. He was never always like shit faced, blah 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 blah." But you know,
Okay.
who knows?
Well, all right.
But Oliver Stone has the best like audio commentaries because he's just so unapologetically honest. He's just like, "Yeah, I was on cocaine when I made this. I don't get it."
Right on.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I don't remember accepting the Oscar for this one.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
or like when I'm just thinking of now, like when Stephen King made Maximum Overdrive, and he was so high on cocaine, he doesn't even remember that he did it.
I was gonna say he did the commentary for that.
He might have, and he doesn't remember doing it.
That's right. That's right.
Wow.
You just hear him just lighting something up, like probably every like 5 minutes, and it.
Mhm.
That's actually
Well-
a great audio commentary from Boogie Nights. Like it's just Marky Mark and PTA just getting high and talking.
Wow.
And you can just hear him like lighting up the bowl. Or the best audio commentary ever is Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Oh, with Hunter Thompson. Oh yeah. And
Yeah, he
switching and
calls up
whooping it
and-
up.
Yeah. He calls up Benicio del Toro. He's like, "Oh, you Nazi bastard." I'm going off on a tangent. Sorry.
No, I'm glad you brought up Boogie Nights because that was another thing. This movie made me convinced of my own psychic powers because at one point they're mentioning we're gonna go to a pool party. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is where they open up with the whip pan across the patio like they did in Boogie Nights, and of course, 2 seconds later, I'm like, no. Anyhow,
Spin the wine, take that girl.
Sister Christian.
Yeah.
oh, Alfred Molina. There's so many Marvel folks in that movie. It's amazing. But anyhow, gang, thank you for going on this not so weird, pretty conventional journey with me as far as the review goes anyway, but I love it. Yeah, David Fowley of Keeping It Real, Mike Crowley of You'll Probably Agree and 25 Years Later, and me, Ian Simmons of Kicking the Seat. If we still have any fans left, I'm eager to check my subscriber count after this.
If this doesn't work, we'll start a law firm. Crowley, Fowley, and Simmons.
Crowley
like
and
that.
Fowley with Simmons.
Yeah, I'll be the silent partner. Silent but deadly.
That's right.
No, yeah. So if you liked this live stream and this review, please feel free to like and subscribe to the channel and check out my lovely and talented co-hosts' work with the description and the links down below. And join us back for something else in the nearest future. And as always, I've been Ian Simmons of Kicking the Seat. Till next time, whenever that is, whatever that is. Thanks very much. Take care and have a weird night.
Yeah, stay weird, everyone.